Hey, good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? I want to apologize for running late here. I had a bit of an emergency down here in the basement studio, as it were. I had a bit of a leak here, so we actually had to stop that up. So that really threw things off. So I want to apologize for that. But welcome here. This is the Caramel Conservative Live here Tuesday night. We're on YouTube here. We're doing something a little different here. Not messing around too much with Facebook Live right now. I got my reasons, but yeah, you guys are going to want to check this out here. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff that goes along with that. I want to bring on a special guest here. We've had him on before. As a matter of fact, our highest rated program here was with the Principled Conservative, and that was a good title. I do like that. But Principled Conservative, Paul Burning, we're going to bring him on right now. And Paul, how are you, sir?
Good evening, Ed. Thanks for having me on again.
Hey, I want to apologize for running late. I know everybody's pressed for time. I know everybody's really busy, and it's just been hectic out here. And then, of course, you got the little unknown things that happen, like, oh, I don't know, leaking in your basement.
Yeah. We just had that on the 4th of July for some ungodly reason. The toilet just ran and didn't stop. And of course, we've got a house full of people and a yard full of people, and I'm just
the toilet's kind of important when you have that many people there.
And it's the one that everyone used too. So,
of course, couldn't be like the one that nobody uses.
I can feel your pain.
Well, excellent. Did you guys have a good 4th of July, though? Speaking of which,
man, every day is Independence Day here in America, but the 4th of July in particular is now it's kind of a remembering time for us. We used to go to my aunt and uncle's. My uncle was in the Marine Corps. He was second generation, zigzagged only back to my brother in our family line, and he passed away about a year and a half ago. And this 4th of July, we got to light off a bunch of fireworks that he left for us. So those are the only ones that we lit off. But otherwise, we were a fun story. Are you familiar with Harry Potter?
I am, unfortunately. I am.
Okay. All right. So you know the game Quidditch where they fly around on broomsticks and
yes.
Yeah. So we actually made a version of that on the ground, and originally about 10 years ago we used broomsticks. That was a monumental mistake. There were many javelins that those turned into, and so we ended up over the years switching to pool noodles. And what's really great is my kids are 16, 14, 12, and 10. Well, go take your time machine and put those ages back. That's 6, 4, 2, and newborn, right? So when we first started playing, I was old and out of shape and having kids. My cousins, who were quite a bit younger than me, were graduating high school or in starting college, and were just in the best shape of their life.
Of course.
And we would get our butts handed to us. Well, the last year, I wish I had it prepared. I didn't know I was going to be talking about this. The last year we played. We came out to fife and drum, and we had our pool noodles as muskets, and we all had red, white, and blue on, face paint on, the whole 9 yards. And we absolutely destroyed Team Ravenclaw. And we were Team USA the whole time, all 10 years, because we're playing a British game now. We told the British to go away like a long time ago, like 250 years ago. So we were Team USA for 10 years, and we finally won. We finally won our independence, and that was the last year we ever played. And then COVID hit, and the rest is history. But yeah, the 4th of July has a special place in our heart, and not just because of my aunt and uncle, but because this is the greatest country in the world.
Well, it's interesting because apparently Mandela Barnes had gone on with a statement, and I didn't get to capture the whole thing, but basically, bagging on the United States on how it's not a good country, all that other good stuff. The typical talking points that we get from the left. And it's funny because are we perfect? No. And I don't think we ever have been. But from the inception of the country, the founders were adamant about trying to create a more perfect union. Yes. And when you look at all the trials and tribulations that we've had dark chapters, we've had great chapters, we have periods of just phenomenal accomplishment. And there has been no planet on this country, bar none, that has done more good for the world than here in America. And I find it to be quite disingenuous that some of the biggest benefactors of the American greatness, this American experiment, as they call it, are going to sit here and just try to tear it all down as if somehow, they're being hunted along, uh, pick your crap old country where your life expectancy might be what, mid 30s. I mean, if we're going to be honest about this, let's just be completely honest.
Yeah, I find it intriguing that people look back 250 years and go, man, I can't believe we weren't the perfect union, and how dare we not be perfect from the get-go. And that's where, like, when I'm having conversations with folks about our country and its founding, I mean, that was the birth of our nation. So when was the last time someone gave birth to a child? When a woman gave birth to a child, and that child came out fully potty trained, able to feed itself, hunt and gather food on its own, and was
Right.
completely well mannered and respected those around them. I
There's a lot
don't
of
know
adults that are well
single,
mannered
yeah,
right now.
well, those wouldn't be adults, Ed. Those would be grown ups. Those are children that just grew up into adult bodies. But
You're not
the
wrong.
the big thing is what child at some point in their life, or what adult at some point in their life, didn't poop their pants? And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about as an adult. I'm talking about when you first came into this world, that's what you did.
Right.
And you had to have somebody feed you, you had to have somebody change your soiled diapers, and you had to grow up and mature. And the intent of having a human being is to have a great human being. And the same thing with the founding of our nation. Our founding fathers were not perfect by any stretch,
Right.
but they were thousands of years ahead of where they should have been at that time. And taking an imperfect civilization that we had on this planet and planting the seeds for light and glory down the road for the dignity of the individual, that I think is needs to be taught more than just this particular founder owned slaves, or this particular founder, had many mistresses or whatever. It's the it's the little things that they shot for, that they just fell short of, that we eventually picked up. And it took us a long time, and it took us maybe longer than we had wanted, but we're getting closer and closer. And man, what a great country we live in.
Well, and my brother and I talk about this all the time. Did our ancestors have hardships? Well, I would argue everybody's did. And I'm sure you could make the argument of a degree of scale. My ancestors had it worse than yours. I'm sure you could do that. But the reality is, for the most part, unless you were like that top aristocracy, life wasn't easy for you. Life wasn't easy. Life wasn't good. I mean, you ran the risk of dying of starvation, illness. Your life expectation was not all that high. And most people, I mean, you were living in poverty. I mean, I think somebody said, essentially, if you look back prior to the early 1900s, almost everybody was living in poverty, with the exception of a very few people. But yet here we are in 246 years, we have literally set up a system where even the poorest among us have an iPhone, games, PlayStation or whatever gaming unit you have. I mean, you have opportunities to be mobile up and down the economic scale.
Yeah, and
Not too
to
many
your
countries can
point,
claim that.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, in the United States of America, this is one of the few places in the world where you can do and be whatever it is that you want to be. And you can do it within your lifetime, and it doesn't have to be a generational transformation of wealth. You can accumulate wealth inside of your lifetime in the system
Mhm.
that we have in the free market. It all boils down to how hard you want to work, and what goals do you want to attain. And we talked about a little bit of that last time, as passion or love, or like, for what you
Yeah.
do. But all of that comes down to, like, for my wife and I, our goals are to have 4 children, our 4 children be greater than we ever will be.
Hmm.
And if we can make that happen and we can instill discipline in our children and instill the dignity of the individual and respect those around you, and don't one of the big things that we always say is don't pick on someone or don't make fun of somebody from something they can't control.
Right.
And as long as you're not defrauding people or violating other people's civil rights, make something, do something, have a lot of money, and make sure that you're being good to those around you, and you can do it in this country. That's what's awesome.
Well, and I think, yeah, to echo that, I mean, that's the beauty of this. If you put your mind to it, I mean, yes, you're going to have obstacles, and some of those obstacles will not be fair. But again, the beauty of this country is that we've been able to move from you can't drink from that bubbler, you can't go to that bathroom, to you could own that bubbler, you could own that bathroom.
Yeah.
Not too many places give you that ability.
Yeah, it's a mindset change that we all as Americans have to take on. I mean, I didn't grow up in the wealthiest of homes. But I grew up. My parents, they fought through a lot, and at times they fought about a lot,
Yeah,
and but they held together through thick and thin, and some of the trials and tribulations that they have gone through, living in, taking us to Russia as myself as a
are you telling?
young teenager, my three younger brothers, that experience, my dad owning a business and losing a business, just instilled in me to try to plow hard, further and be more successful, and the shortcomings that he had without a dad, and um, my mom losing her mom, basically giving birth to her.
Mhm.
They had their own sets of trials that they had to get through. But at the end of the day, sometime around when I was about 5 or 6 years old, they made the determination that they're going to do whatever they can to make mine and my three younger brothers' lives better, so that we could have a better life than they had.
Yeah.
And it just all boiled down to love and discipline, and that's what makes this whole thing great. But yeah, it's man, you can do anything you want. You just got to make sure that you understand what the sacrifice is. Jordan Peterson talks about that. Pick your sacrifice, he says.
Yep.
I don't know. Have you ever heard his talk on that?
I have heard several of them, and I know he's kind of talked about that at length on a bunch of different occasions. But yeah, I think that's a key thing, though. You have to be able to pick your sacrifices. Do you want to do you sacrifice for your career? Well, if you do that, then something else is going to suffer. Do you sacrifice for your family? Well, if you do that, then something else, maybe your career, maybe your job, maybe something else suffers. There's always a drawback, but you try to balance it as best as you can. But whatever it is that you're going to sacrifice for, whatever greatness you're going to attain to, that's really, you have to figure out what that is. Because if you're just going about it aimlessly, then you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send you the clip of what I'm talking about, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really good. It goes into the Peter Pan story and understanding, what he has to sacrifice to be a man, to
Yeah.
turn into a man, and not just remain and be a boy, and then Pinocchio too with that story, and I mean, goodness gracious, some of these classics really hit home when you start diving into it and talking with your kids about certain things. Yeah, it really hits you like, man, come on, son. I wish I would have seen this at 30 and not 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, but you know what the kids are all thinking of until they're about 26. So
I tell you, it's one of those things where it's like, I look back here at 49 and I think, man, if I had only known this when I was 30, if I'd only known this when I was 25, if I had only known, yeah, if.
yeah, well, that's where you come in as a father and as a parent, and you make sure that you instill that wisdom in your kids, and even if they don't hear it today, they'll hear it later. And all those wooden spoons that had holes drilled in them for aerodynamics for paddles on my butt, they worked over time. Okay, they
Aerodynamics.
didn't like my parents didn't drill holes in the wooden spoons. They actually had to use them because we didn't have enough money to buy separate wooden spoons for making it.
Hey, man, it's a rough economy out there, so we know
Oh
that for
yeah.
sure. Now, obviously, and I want to thank you because the last time you were on, that was probably the most watched episode I've had here,
Oh, super.
and we did obviously a lot more, kind of getting to know you and everything else like that, um, which I think was phenomenal. And that's why I love to have you when you want to come back on. It was like, great, let's do this because obviously people want to learn more about policy. People want to know more about, you obviously, you're a big proponent of Top Gun. And
I'm gonna go see it again with my daughter, so that'll be the 6th time this since it came out. And by the way, go see it. Make it $1.5 billion movie.
$1.5 billion. Scientology is going to get paid.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm not saying because of that. I'm saying because
I know
the Communist Party of China and they left the Taiwanese flag and the Japanese flag on his dad's flight jacket. So,
well, I tell you, they got mad about that. They got mad about that movie, big mad.
Perfect. But yes, I'm sorry. Proceed.
But
you were saying.
Obviously, there's so much to talk about, a lot to unpack. Today was a huge news day, and later in the show, I'm going to kind of go into it a lot more too. But I want to kind of get your take. So, Kevin Nicholson dropped out of the Wisconsin gubernatorial race today, and I think that was pretty big considering he was out at all the events over the weekend. I saw him just over here in Green Lake County last Wednesday, and you wouldn't have thought that this was even under consideration. Guess what's kind of your take on this here?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. One thing, I'm just going to bring some of my life into this, and then we can speculate and take a look at maybe what's going on over at Kevin and Jesse's house right now. So in 2016, I ran in a primary for the state assembly in the state of Wisconsin. And it was myself against a man who was very well established in the community and had very good name recognition, was very, very successful in what he did. We always joke and say that he's the Elon Musk of the St. Croix Valley, and he laughs and blushes at it. But the guy is a true innovator and absolute business genius. And I really look up to him, and he and I talk quite frequently. But one thing I wish I would have done was drop out of that race and just took a deep breath and self-reflected instead of running all the way to the end. Now, it was pretty close. I would say I think I put up a pretty good fight considering, but
right.
I allowed a little bit of, I think it was more the people that supported me and had helped me for quite a few months get to where we were. And I was really shocked that we lost, but I wish I would have stepped back and dropped out at that time. And I think Kevin Nicholson, now transitioning over to that, I think he's looking at this, rather pragmatically and saying, you know what, I'm 3-ish, 4-ish out of 5 in the polling, and really 4 in the polling. I haven't gotten a lot of traction since announcing. This hasn't quite gone the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And it's a time suck for a statewide race. I explored a statewide race 9 months ago, had really good support, but it is so taxing on your family. And Kevin he's got a young family.
Yep.
He's got to think about, and he just did no better friends for how long. So I respect his decision to drop out. Of course, I'm a big Rebecca Clayfish supporter, have been for a very long time. So yeah, I think it came down to family time and realities of it's a 2-person race at this point.
Right.
And I think he chose his family this is just speculation again.
Yeah.
I don't know Kevin on a personal level, but if it's me looking at it from like my perspective with a young family, I'm going, this is probably why this is happening. So, and all the respect in the world to him for that, for sure.
Well, I thought it was interesting. He did an interview with Mark Belling down WISN this evening around 5 o'clock. And
I was at a county board meeting, couldn't hear it. I'll catch it later. I wish I would have listened to it.
I thought it was a great interview. Belling asked him, some pretty good questions. Did he think that Michael's influence, kind of coming in here and essentially being able to drop $1 million a week, did that have an impact? Was he directed by, the U lines one way or the other? I thought you asked some pretty good questions. Kevin, I think, answered to the effect of he saw a path forward for his victory, for his campaign. But he believed that in order for that to happen, he would have to go extremely negative.
Yep, I did see that in the press release.
Right, and I thought that was pretty interesting take there, because do we really, and that's always been my question throughout this primary, do we want to engage in this circular firing squad? And I don't even know if it's necessarily from the candidates, but more so the supporters, and not every group of supporters, I would add.
Yeah.
But boy, some of them are vicious. Yeah. And do we foster that type of mentality? I mean, to me, that's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great question. So, I mean, I've been involved longer than most, but not nearly as long as some. And so I like to glean wisdom and take wisdom from those that have been in the trenches when being conservative and fighting government overreach wasn't sexy. And it was like really a hard road to hoe, back in the 2000s, 2010 mark, when you're coming out of the Tommy Thompson era, where Governor Tommy Thompson was considered a radical conservative doing welfare reform. Mm-hmm. I mean, the last 60 years of the Great Society has curbed people's mentality to thinking that government needs to have the solutions. So to come in with a Ronald Reagan and then kind of hit a stall point with Bill Clinton, but then have the new revolution under Newt Gingrich, even that is looking compared to what we are really looking for right now, gleaming off of all that wisdom and looking at this and saying, okay, attacking, it depends on how you attack.
Yeah.
Don't go after people's characters. Mm-hmm. Like calling someone stupid or corrupt or, like doing all those things and then not really having a lot of evidence to back that up, or not having any evidence at all, or just saying that they're a rhino or that. I mean, I'm going to touch on that for 1 second, then I'll come back.
Please do, because I'm so sick of that word.
Republican in name only. Here's the best part about being a conservative or a Republican is we each come and we value and cherish the dignity of the individual. Mm. So we're all going to have something that we disagree with the other on.
Yeah.
With other people on. My whole thing with Republican, if you're a Republican, you are a Republican in name only, because you aren't a part of a group think necessarily. So the best thing you can do is look at those that are around you and realize that those are also individuals, Republican in name only, and find out how you can work with those people, because it's not always easy. I can tell you, we've got some issues in our area too, where we are working through things, trying to figure out how we can work together. But as far as like candidates going after candidates, coming back to that, there is nothing wrong with sharpening each other and looking at policy and record and calling people out on that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's when it comes down to the end of the day and you're sitting here saying like Rebecca Clayfish is just as bad as Tony Evers, or Tim Ramthun is just as bad as Tony Evers, or whatever. I mean, the end of the day, Tony Evers, he shut our lives down, and he needs to answer for that, and he needs to be fired. And I wish we could have fired him over policy a long time ago, but that was up to the voters in 2018, and they said we wanted a different direction. And but yeah, we need to sharpen people, but at the end of the day, we got to rally around whichever candidate it is, whoever is the nominee on August 10th. On the conservative side, and they are all conservatives, I believe. Some to, more degree than the other, in my opinion. But at the same time, all of them are a better choice than Tony Evers for sure.
Well, and I thought it was kind of funny because throughout this whole primary, I've seen people yell that word rhino at people because they're not conservative enough or didn't fit their brand of
With an
conservatism.
H too, by the way, with an H. That's my
With an
favorite one.
H, right? Made me want to go on the Serengeti and get like the big game hunting equipment here. But no, I just thought it was funny because you're saying this type of stuff, and a lot of the folks that are out here that are saying this, God bless them for getting involved. But the problem I have with it is like, wait a minute, you just got involved in 2020? You just got involved in 2018?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to knock you because everybody's got to start somewhere. You got to crawl before you walk. I dig that. But you don't know your backside from a hole in the ground. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
it's that collective mentality that to me is garbage because, well, if you don't think Trump won or whatever, then you're a rhino. Oh, now you're the arbiter of conservatism. Thank you very much. I don't think so.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, people are mad about what happened. And
Yes.
that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being angry. Actually, my good friend, actually he was a youth pastor at the church I went to growing up. He really helped my parents be an example to my parents in their original walk, as they started their walk with the Lord 30 years ago, 35 years ago. My God, I'm getting old.
I feel that
They
one too.
Yeah, so he had a great point that people have a right to be angry. I mean, Christ flipped tables in the temple because they were blaspheming his father's house.
Yes.
And so people have a right to be angry because Christ was angry. But you know what Christ did is he turned his anger into resolve and he turned it into love and compassion and into works of faith. And I think that is a stark contrast to what we're seeing right now. But I'm starting to see things starting to come around. This anger is starting to be tempered into resolve in
Mhm.
some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases. And it's the reality that we need to win in November is starting to come into play, and I'm very, very happy to see that. So I think that's a big thing we need to remember is and I'll credit Tony Nasvik for that. If you don't know Tony Nasvik, up the NRA is calling me trying to get money. If you don't know Tony Nasvik, Ed, you should get to know him. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah.
He's a wise man, good dude, just all around. Him and his wife Nancy, stalwarts in the conservative movement. But he's the one
I have
that
to get
said,
to know him
"Turn
for
your anger
sure.
into resolve." And
Mhm.
I actually have it on a sticky note. I don't use a lot of sticky notes, but I have it right above my desk here. And that's what we're trying to do, turn our anger into resolve. And it's taken me a while too, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
oof, there are things that have really got me angry about whatever, but at the end of the day, we got to win, and we got to win big in November.
Well, it's kind of like what I told people, when I tell people that I've done this podcast game here for about, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. A lot of what I do now is so much different than what I used to do right from the get-go. I mean, I used to put it bluntly, I made some of these other groups look tame. Like I would literally, just go on a tear, cuss folks out, do whatever. Eh, But it's not constructive. You feed into this negative emotion, this negative beast. And what's the turnaround for that? How do you galvanize? I mean, I get that you can talk to certain people in a particular using particular language, and that's the way you're going to be able to reach them. But it doesn't work for everybody, and especially it doesn't work if you want to affect some change. So a lot of what I had to do was, personal growth. Sit here and reevaluate what I was doing, try new things. I think it was yourself, um, Brian Westrate, and a couple other folks, Orlando Owens, who talked to me about joining the county party. Doesn't necessarily make me a sellout, although some people will say that I am. But it's like, okay, well, if Route One wasn't working, maybe you try the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, Ruth, hi Ruth, nice to meet you. She has a question
Yes,
If
Ruth
you
is
don't
a
mind.
awesome
What's
young
that?
lady from Sheboygan.
How do we define an individual who doesn't uphold their oath of office? I just don't agree that we are all conservatives. Won't change my mind. Lost my livelihood for lack of representation. It's personal. Ruth, boy, oh boy, can I just tell you, I am 100% with you. Um, I actually am sitting in an office that came about because of a vaccine mandate that was put on our organization as a Fortune 100 company. 10% of the contract revenue of the company that I worked for came from the federal government. And because of their lack of coming to us as associates, um, forced me to go out on my own. And here I am dipping into a completely depleted 401k.
Oh,
My cash is worth less than it was 6 months ago by a
yep.
long shot. And I can totally feel your pain on that. Yes, not every conservative is as conservative as we want them to be. But what we can do, and this is where we talked about this last time, Ed,
Hmm.
you can't microwave freedom. The
Right.
freedoms that we and the little things that we've given up over the last 60 years since the Great Society has made it so that the government was allowed to be in this position to dip right into our lives. I mean, we have not, as a society, as a church body, as whatever you want to call it, we have surrendered everything that our charitable organizations and our churches and us as individuals used to do to the state. And
Hmm.
what I'm talking about in that regard is our health and human services departments doing things like crisis intervention, the lack of a family structure in our country, discipline. We don't discipline children anymore because we're afraid we're going to hurt their feelings. We think that 6 and 8 and 10 year olds can dictate their own destiny when they really don't
Right.
even know how to tie their shoe or wipe their own butts. So we have allowed this as society over time. Plus, we've surrendered our tax dollars to them. They can't shut us down if they can't enforce it.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, not everybody is in the degree of conservatism or that we want, but we're going to change it over time, and it's going to take our generation to do it. And I'm not about generational warfare by any stretch, but I can tell you that we've had it very good post World War II,
Hmm.
and now is the time that we're. I'm not saying that we're facing a World War II, but we're facing some pretty cataclysmic issues in this country. From everything from Ed, what we talked about at the beginning, loving this country, thinking
Yep.
it's the greatest in the world. That's not even common ground anymore. But
It's
we
sad.
are, yeah, it's really sad. But to hold those people accountable, you got to have influence in your community. And we talked about it in the last podcast about how you've got to get involved locally. It can't just be that you go to work, you raise your kids, and go see a movie or go out on your boat or go camping on the weekend. You've got to become an influencer in your community. And if you're not doing that, you're never going to make the effective change that you want to see down the road. And it comes in small bites. If we try to microwave everything that we want, put more mandates of not being allowed to do things on top of more mandates, on top of more government intrusion, on top of
Hmm.
more government regulation, all we're going to see is the left use and manipulate those particular issues and those particular laws that we pass to control us again down the road. So if we're able to take this back in inches, and actually one of my really good friends, I won't say her name, but I have a lot of respect for her. She happens to be the deputy director of a very influential organization here in Wisconsin, and she always talks about freedom is one back in inches,
Yeah.
and that's why we can't take our foot off the gas. Once we win the five constitutional offices again in Wisconsin, we can't become complacent and or become so I'm trying to find the right word here.
We can't rest on our
Um,
laurels.
well, it's not even resting on our laurels. It's, oh, they didn't. they didn't take that one more step of conservatism that I like. So I'm just not going to work for him. I'm not going to vote for him this time.
Right.
And we'll let Governor Evers have a chance. You can see that literal Marxists don't care about the rule of law. And they don't
They
care
really
about
don't.
it. So that's why we have to maintain our foothold on it once we get it again. And, yes, hold them accountable, write them, help them. Let them know that you're there to support them too. Don't just let them know that you're there to chop their head off if they don't do something that you like. Like, there's nothing that and as an elected official myself, there's nothing that closes elected officials off more than, especially local elected officials where you get paid peanuts, barely cover
Right.
your expenses to read through hundreds of pages and then spend hours and hours in a meeting and then take phone calls and emails and have to respond to people and coffees and
Mhm.
then to sit there and say, well, we're going to primary you because you voted for this appointment on a
Right.
committee. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, we're doing everything we can to hold the line here, but it takes more than just that. We got to know that people have our backs. And once elected officials know that, it's a lot easier to make those calls and those big stands. Not just that you're going to sitting there threatening somebody with a watchful eye and telling them that you're ready to chop their head off isn't exactly a motivator to do something, because if you don't do it right, you're still going to chop their head off. So it hold them accountable, but let them know that you have their back, especially if they're a good legislator or a good representative.
Yeah.
85 or 90% of the time.
Well, it's
Does that answer your
interesting.
question, Ruth? I hope that's the best I have for you.
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because Ruth is actually running. She's primarying Devin LeMahieu for Wisconsin's 9th Senate District.
Okay.
So think it's interesting because the first part of your question is one that always kind of intrigues me. How do we define an individual who doesn't uphold their oath of office? And I look at governance in two different ways. There is, you voted for me based upon my platform, what I believe, everything else. And because you voted for me, I'm going to vote according to what I told you. And then other people say, well, no, you need to come talk to us and don't make a decision without talking to your district. The problem is that what do you normally have when you go to your district? 25 angry people. I mean, a lot of people aren't as involved as they should be. But what is the proper form of governance?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, Ed. Now I can just tell you, kind of explain to you how I approach being an elected official in my small little area. First and foremost, I know a lot of people in the couple neighborhoods that I represent, so it's a lot easier. They know me, they trust me, and they trust the job that I'm going to do, and that's why you run. So you run and you put your name on the ballot and you say, hey, look, voters of said district, I'm running. Here's why I'm running. Right. And maybe you run into some people that have a legitimate issue for that area that needs to be taken care of. So you add that to your platform. And I like to go out and I like to ask people what their biggest concern is, let them know what my principles are. But I let my example and the work in my community kind of speak for itself. And then I ask them, hey, I'm going to make decisions on your behalf because
Right.
that's what we're supposed to do as an elected official. Do you trust me? And that's where the voters twice now have put me on our county board. And I don't take that for granted, and I don't take it lightly. I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, that's how you should approach it, because the loudest voices don't always symbolize. They don't always hold true, one, to your principle, but two, the loudest and the most obnoxious aren't always the ones that really are what your constituents want.
Right.
Most of your constituents trust you to make the right decision, and based on the data that you're given and the choices that you're given in your vote. And let's just say, like, I had a sit down. I think we talked about this last time, where
Last
a
time, yeah.
gentleman, he said, "Oh, it's whatever the people want." Well, what does that mean? So, if 25 conservatives came to you and 25 liberals came to you, how do you make your decision now? What if
Now it's a
they
wash.
25 and 25 said to say different things? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, I think we
that's
got to be mindful too that if you're elected, you don't just serve your conservative base. You also serve the people that didn't vote for you as well.
Yep, but you serve
They
them with
are
your
constituents,
principles.
right?
Yep, they trusted you to, but on the flip side, you also can't be that demagogue that they're afraid to approach you in the grocery store at Quick Trip,
Yes,
because if you become that person, you will lose very quickly. Because nobody wants to be preached at by the person that they sent to represent them. They want someone to listen,
yep.
and that is yeah. There's that.
You know, you said something earlier, and I want to touch on this because I think it's just so incredibly important. You mentioned that you don't want to really you talk about generational warfare, and I'm not sure if you're talking about like third generational kinetic warfare, but I think in
And I
today's
got 2 minutes. I'm sorry, Ed. I
oh,
got 2
I'm
minutes.
so sorry. I
No,
know you were running,
we're
you were
good.
doing some things and stuff, but let's just close it out like this here. Where not World War II, but every 80 years we seem to have some kind of major trial, upheaval in society, a great shift in the nation. Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, present day America. We've gotten soft. How do we build that back up? Especially here in Wisconsin, because we need that.
Yeah, man, what we're going through right now is pretty tough, but you and I are talking on like technology that's incredible, and we still have our Caribou or Starbucks or Dunn Brothers in our area. If you really want to go there, you can, and there's lots of jobs available, and
Right.
so like the big thing is we're at a crossroads in our country where we either have to go with we have to somehow figure out how to break our ties with China and start bringing manufacturing closer to home, not have any more CCP influence.
Yeah.
And that's going to require not having 1,000 different Barbie dolls and Bratz dolls and whatever other dolls that you want to choose from on the shelf. That's
You brought
just
up
reality.
Bratz. You brought up
Yeah,
Bratz.
yeah.
That's old school right there.
I don't know. Barbie's old school too. But what
That's
I'm getting
true.
at,
it's a good point though.
Yeah, we have to either figure out, do we want the dignity of the individual, or do we want security and really like awesome modern things? And I think we can go with the dignity of the individual with really awesome modern things, but we have to cherish that, and it can't just be that. And I harp on this a lot: camping on weekends, boats on weekends, road trips on week. Like we got to figure out what. Jordan Peterson, pick your sacrifice. You got to pick your sacrifice. For me, it's the dignity of the individual. From the moment my parents were detained, as we were leaving Russia, and I had my 3 younger brothers sitting there, and I'm sitting there going, man, I never want my country to turn into what I'm leaving right now and heading home to.
Right.
I'm determined. I'm bound and determined to my dying last breath to do everything I can in this country to make sure that it stays free and independent. So with that, I got to get going. My kids want to go work out because we haven't done it for a while together. So thanks for having me on, Ed.
Right,
I look forward to our next conversation.
Definitely. Thank you very much for coming on here. I know we had a lot to unpack, but go get that workout in. You got to make those gains. All right, guys, that's Paul Burning here. We always appreciate having him on. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to open up the lines here. So if you want to come on to the podcast here, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can call in, and we're going to have the live phone number right there. So you'll be able to call in, or you could join in here and jump on to the video cast here. So you can actually join in here. And what we're going to do when we come back here, we're going to talk about a couple different things. Obviously, Kevin Nicholson dropping out. Big news. We got that shooting down in Highland Park, Illinois. Big news. A lot of different things going on here. So give us a couple minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back here, the Caramel Conservative Podcast, live here Tuesday night. And yes, we are broadcasting via YouTube Live. Now, you're going to probably wonder, why? Why are you doing this via YouTube Live? Well, as I told you guys before, I'm actually trying to grow this YouTube channel here. Obviously, we've got the Wisconsin Conservative Conversations. We got more conversations coming up here. I have Holly Liskett, Leska, I believe I'm mispronouncing her name. She's going to beat me up. I'll be reaching out to her, having a conversation with her. I will be having Jay Schrader coming back on here this Thursday. I got more guests coming up, lining them up. If you guys have a candidate, you know somebody who wants to be a part of this show, 1 hour conversations, non-adversarial. We look to humanize candidates as we talk about that on the Wisconsin Conservative Conversations. Now, Caramel Conservative Podcast here, slightly different. My opinion, my show. That's how I get down. But with all that being said, make sure you check out the website. That's thecaramelconservative.com. Make sure you check that out. You also find all the videos and all the other good stuff there. We will be rebroadcasting all this too on Spreaker.com. So find your favorite podcast aggregators. You'll find us there too. Now, that all being said, if you want to join in and be a part of this show, let me know. I can get you here on the video with me, or you can call that live call-in number you see right down there below. But I want to address something here. And I want to address this before I bring my next guest on. So, guests, stand by. I want to address this idea of debates. And I think it is funny. Governor's debate in particular. This is what we're going to address. Do you guys remember? And yes, this is a Tuesday night show. I can smoke here. I do that. I don't know how many of you guys came up in the 70s and 80s like I did, but by the time I was 12 years old, I forgot how many times I've been in fights. Like literally, there was a period of years where if I didn't get in a fight like once or twice a week, it was a very strange week. And that's just how boys got down. I mean, some of my best friends turned out to be people I used to fight with. Go figure. But I remember I got to a point with people where they would tell me, oh, we're going to fight. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it. Were you scared? What are you, a coward? Nah, I just don't feel like whooping your ass. That's what. Oh, you're just scared. You ain't going to do nothing. And it's funny because I know I'd win. I also know I'd get in trouble. But what's the point of me fighting? I'm making you legitimate. I'm giving you, who's trying to pick a fight with me, some notoriety. Why would I do that? Why do I tell you that story? I'll tell it to you like this. So what was it, about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago? There was a debate. And that debate, their governor's debate, was up in Green Bay. And Tim Michels didn't show up. So at this point, we have 4 gubernatorial candidates who were invited, a 5th one who wasn't, Adam Fisher. But the 4 gubernatorial candidates that were invited were Tim Michels, Rebecca Clayfish, Kevin Nicholson, Tim Rantham. And I thought it was kind of funny that Tim didn't show up at all. He didn't confirm it, didn't come, didn't do nothing. And I see people online saying that, well, Tim Michels is a coward. He can't debate. And as you guys know, I'm not a fan of polls. I hate polls because, well, let's say, for example, 538. If you guys pay attention to 538, I can't help you. It is Nate Silver and his organization are straight up garbage. I mean, they got 2020 wrong. They were closer than they were 2016. And 2016, they just totally crapped the bed. So that's not saying much. But I'm not a fan of polls because, by and large, polls are a snapshot in time. It's a good barometer to see where things are at that moment in time. But you need to take a look to see what the polls are actually telling you, the questions that were asked, how they were framed, and then, of course, what the sample size is. The Marquette University law poll that came out a couple weeks back only had 803 people as their sample size. Not the largest group of people. But in that, Tim Rantham came in at 3%. Kevin Nicholson was at 10, Rebecca Clayfish at 26, and Tim Michaels at 27. So I found that interesting because Tim Michaels then kind of took the position of, well, 1 point, I'm still ahead. No, never mind the fact that that's within the margin of error. But I think it's always interesting when somebody knows that they're ahead, even if by a little, you're still ahead, right? And you take the approach that you're ahead. You act as if you're ahead. You literally conduct yourself like, I don't have to do that. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with that, that's called leverage. That is called arguing from a position of FU. I talked about this last week. You guys need to pay attention. If I'm ahead of the polls, and I know that my only real opposition is going to show up to this debate, and the other candidates are going to show up too, I wouldn't show either. Why would I have to? My name's getting out there. You're talking about me. All press is good press at this point. Yeah, why would I go? You're talking 5-6 weeks before a Republican primary, and I'm going to go into this debate where the questions will be suspect, where the moderator is going to be suspect just the same. So all you're going to do is get sound bites and hopefully get me tripping up on some words. Hell, if I was advising somebody, I'd tell you not to go too. And especially if you're leading in the polls or you're second place in the polls or if you're neck and neck in the polls, you operate from a position of FU. Why would I debate? Why would I set myself up? Why would I rub elbows with somebody, who maybe 15, 20, 30 points behind me and give them any legitimacy? That's how I would operate on that one. For this upcoming debate, apparently there's going to be another debate here somewhere this weekend. I think Oconomowoc? I might be wrong about that. I only saw the flyer in passing. But if I was advising both Tim Michaels and Rebecca Clayfish, I would tell them the same thing. Don't show. You have nothing to prove at this point. I would find out who the moderator is. Don't even ask about the questions. Just find out who the moderator is. And honestly, with 34 days before the primary, I would not show. Again, why? Why would I want to show up where you're going to get me to try to trip up on words? Why would you want to go so you can try to get a soundbite and take it out of context? I wouldn't do it. Now, as we get closer to the primary, I would certainly do it. We're talking 2 weeks before the primary. Marquette University, they're going to be having a debate there. I believe that it's the 24th, a Sunday. I would go to that one for sure. And maybe one more as you get closer to August 9th. But anything before that, oh no. I would totally be in a position of FU. I don't have to do it. I don't have to play your game. I'm focusing on my ground game, focusing on my message, focusing on talking to the people. Because really at this point in the primary process, everything's over but the main event. So you really need to get out there to the independents. The politicals, come on now. We all have our picks at this point. Some of us are leaning stronger toward the other person than we are another. So to say that it's going to sway an opinion, because how many people prior to you getting involved into politics on any level, how often did you watch the lieutenant governor, the governor's debate here in the state of Wisconsin? How often did you legitimately watch the presidential debates prior to the entertainment of 2016? I venture to say you probably didn't watch too much of it, if at all. But it's funny. Ever since Trump came on board here in 2015, during that primary cycle, 2015, 2016, boy, politics has become pop culture. And people have eaten it up lock, stock, and barrel. But speaking of things that we have going on here in the month of July, July 23rd, Franklin, Wisconsin, 11 to 2 p.m., we got the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. They're going to be hosting an event, and I actually have the organizer of this event, young man I'm going to know I've came to respect. And yeah, he's still in the will. Hilario De Leon, what's going on, bro? How you doing, man?
How you doing, brother Ed? Good to be back on the show.
Living the dream, my friend. Living the dream.
Living the dream. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mean, I apologize if you hear a lot of noise. It's either because of the neighbors upstairs, or it's storming in my area, or you hear.
I'm hearing a lot of crackling.
A lot of crackling. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's it's storming, and it's kind of echoey here where I am, and we have fireworks going off, and who knows? Maybe those are gunshots too.
Well, it is Milwaukee County, so it could be anything.
Yeah. So, yes, we do have July 23rd. Our county is hosting our second annual summer picnic. Last year, we had it at the Tri-County Baptist Church, and I'm happy to announce that we are welcome there again this year. So it will be the same location. I think we had up to 100 people last year. We allowed all the candidates at the time, because there weren't that many, to speak. But now there's like 200 in some of these races, it seems.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Not all of them will be able to speak. Actually, none of them will be able to speak. The only people that we will have speaking so far is State Party Chairman Paul Farrow and Brian Schimming. Brian Schimming will be
nice
speaker. So
both
I'm very grateful.
Gentlemen.
I'm very glad that both of them are going to be coming and speaking. I'm working on a few other speakers. I'm trying to get Senator Ron Johnson to come on out, because, who doesn't love Ron Johnson besides the Democrats? I think this is we talked about this before on your show, on the audio one. This is a wonderful opportunity for not only the candidates, but for anyone who, and I know you kind of said in your little spiel before I came on, it's like, who hasn't made their mind up? There's quite a few people when it comes to a lot of these races, besides the governor's race, that don't know who all the candidates are and don't know who they're going to be voting for. So I always keep telling people, hey, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to come on out and actually meet the candidates face on. They'll be there with their campaign staff, or their campaign staff will be there representing them. They will have a table, possibly some pop-up tents. Hopefully it doesn't rain. And
especially this year, it's like rain is like the biggest issue going on.
I have to say, we just had our 4th of July parade in St. Francis that Milwaukee County was able to participate in. And we had a wonderful turnout of people. And actually, there was a lot more positivity than there was negativity towards us. Only a few thumbs down, a few middle fingers, but most of it was very positive.
He said only a few middle fingers. That's awesome.
Well, I always say when they're doing the middle finger, they're just saying we're number one. So that's really what it means. So it was very fun. I was able to help organize that with a few other people from the county, and we had these giant speakers on the side of the floats, just blasting patriotic music. There wasn't much music that was actually in the parade itself, so it was a big cherry on top for everyone there. And then the rain hit us at the end of it, so thank God we were already done with the parade. But getting back to the picnic, like I said, this is a great opportunity for people to come out, meet the candidates to kind of do their last bit of true campaigning, true stump speech campaigning on a one-to-one basis. Rather than speaking to a whole crowd for 5 minutes, you could talk to a person for an hour, 2 hours, as long as you want. Obviously, they're going to be interacting with so many people throughout the day, and there's going to be a lot of activities there. A lot of activities. We have games. We're going to be cooking out, and actually, we're going to have a live band. I know you were giving me.
I was going to make fun of that. I'm not going to lie.
I know you were making fun of it, but it's kind of hard to find a more modern band or a band that really does 80s music around this time and that is conservative. So
I'm just saying, you were talking about, hey, we got a band here that plays music in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and it's like, damn, what are we doing, a sock hop? I mean, like
50s, 60s,
what are we doing here? It's like special guest speaker Laverne and Shirley. It's like, hey, oh, you gonna bring the Fonz in here, ain't you? Uh-huh.
Hey, if the Democrats have to play with dead votes, maybe we do too. Terrible.
Well, let's not advocate for that. I've seen, having grown up in the 80s, I've seen too many movies of the dead doing things. So let's just, I like to keep the dead where they're at, dead.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Like I said, too many slasher flicks, too many people reading the Necronomicon. But that's a whole different story. That's the nerd in me coming out, just so y'all know.
Hey, that's all right. I'm a big nerd myself. But I wanted to also let people know that we do have a dunk tank, which is being sponsored by Pro-Life Wisconsin. And we are going to be dunking somebody that everyone has come to know and love.
And love.
That's a big emphasis on the love. Our very own Dr. Fauci. So come on out, show your love towards him, and dunk him in the water COVID booster. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
The batch of I don't know, be creative, figure out what you want to call it at that point. Now, let me ask you this here. Is there a cost or anything to come to this event?
No, this is a free event, so all are invited from the surrounding counties. And I know you're coming down from your county, Ed, so I'm very grateful for coming out. So, no, you don't have to pay anything. Maybe the dunk tank, there might be some charging. We're still discussing that. But really, there we go. Yeah, bucket throw. The food is free. Who doesn't love free food?
Well, especially with Bidenomics and everything, we kind of need to have like every free meal you can kind of get. Because brothers are broke these days, right? Are we gonna have a pancake stand? That's what.
Is there an all-you-can-eat pancake booth? When discussing the event with Dr. Fauci, I don't think he mentioned anything about bringing his batch of pancakes with him. I think he's kind of there to try and shut down the event, but he doesn't know the whole situation.
I understand. I was hoping there'd be some pancakes there. I mean, let's face it, but I'm sure, Fauci and Waffle House just don't really tend to jive. So that could be a problem.
It can be a big problem. We'll see what happens. Maybe he'll bring a special box for you. I don't know.
Special box. So you guys were invited to Franklin, weren't you, for the 4th of July parade?
St. Francis.
So, and I got to see some pictures. You guys have all posted them up there. And really, it seems like over this 4th of July weekend, you guys are pretty busy putting floats together, getting things out to people. A lot of work outside the office, which...
So contrary to what some people think, obviously it was 4th of July weekend, a very busy weekend for everyone, especially political candidates. So with that, a lot of our volunteers who normally volunteer out of the office or do many other things for the county, they get picked up by these campaigns or by these candidates or sitting congressmen to go walk with them and promote that person in the local areas or communities that they live in. And so many people were walking with Brian Stile or Rebecca Clayfish, Kevin Nicholson. I mean, you just name it. I mean, Kevin just dropped out of the race. So others are going to be going from that campaign to other campaigns, I'm sure, throughout this time. And that's just what happens. People get picked up by campaigns. And so over time, people should expect, especially when it comes to holidays like 4th of July, our office isn't always open. From what I understand was there were people there in the morning, but they had to leave early. They had to go pick up literature and other things for our 4th of July parades and other candidates as well. So I'm grateful for those people that took the time out of their weekend, out of their 4th of July weekend, that they could be spending time with their family to at least keep the office open for a little bit. And even me, afterwards, later in the day, I came out and stayed at the office on a Saturday to get more stuff from the office as well for our float, which was, like I said, a big hit. And so, yes, we were very busy. I'm glad we had a presence, whether it was with a candidate or with the official county in St. Francis. I'm looking to hopefully expand us further so that we can be more in more areas than just one.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, it's definitely a start. And really, I saw a lot of county parties getting involved in things, going out to these events. And it's I think, pretty awesome thing to see, especially, as we celebrate the 4th of July, this idea of being free. And I think now more than ever, this is where, as conservatives, as Republicans, we really need to kind of push that out more into the open, be parts of the community. Because one of the things I've been critical about this, I know others have been as well. As conservatives, we generally don't have that type of energy. We don't have that type of excitement. I'm not saying we need to have like a straight up club or anything, but we can't be treating this like if this is an insurance seminar either.
Well, some people might say that we're a cult, which we're absolutely not, but you're absolutely right.
Well, don't confuse us with the DNC. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. But, you're right. I was out at Juneteenth with my coworker Kenzer in the state, representing the state party and also the county party and other candidates that were there as well. And, over time, the Republican Party brand has been tarnished. And that's not really our fault. It's a lot of, well, it is and it isn't. So one is that the Democrats have mastered the art of throwing mud and tarnishing the name of the Republican Party. The other thing is, it's just Republicans in general, as you have stated many times on this show, we don't have any form of culture that people can get behind. But, you go to a Trump rally, you go to, like when I was at State Fair last year, which I'm really looking forward to being there again this year. I'm trying to be there every day because I had an absolute blast. Just thousands of people, all from around the state, and other people came from different parts of the country to our state fair, which is awesome. And they interacted with our booth. They were having fun. We were just, shooting the shit and talking about everything current going on within our state or within our country. And it was just such a positive energy that I think many people don't always get to see because they hear the word Republican or they see the elephant, which is a definitely better symbol than a donkey. And they're scared of it because of what they were told, falsely told, by people that were Democrat or on the left. And so it's really on our part now to be, one, involved in our local county parties, involved with the state party, and go out into our community. And even if it takes one person at a time to change their mind and understand we're not racist monsters that the media tries to portray us as.
That one always cracks me up. It's like, have you seen me? Just saying.
Have you heard my name lately?
Have you heard my surname? I mean, come on, like, seriously. Like, so what? You put me. It's funny. I was telling somebody this earlier, right? Because we were, just kind of talking about our political leanings and everything. And, it's a group of us, and we all know each other. And, a couple are, left of center, a couple were centrist. And they were all white folks. And it was funny because I'm like the most conservative one out of everybody. And I go, yeah, really trips you out, doesn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Take a look at all of us. One of these things does not look like the other, does it? And nobody expects me, the darkest guy in the room, to be, the most conservative person in the room. But that one always cracks me up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because the reception I get from a lot of people is rarely is it ever negative. As a matter of fact, I get more negativity from people, from people of color than I do from other conservatives or centrists. Liberals, I definitely get a lot of flack from them.
How about white liberals? You ever get flack from that? Because at times there's nothing more dangerous than a white liberal.
I do. And it's kind of adorable. It's kind of adorable. Like I remember one young lady, she's like, well, you're supposed to represent your people. I'm like, well, slow down here, Sally, slow down, sweetheart. And I remember telling her, I was like, my people. Well, yeah, no, you don't understand. They don't pay my bills. They don't care whether I eat or not, whether I live or die. That's not my people. My people are people that actually believe in, I don't know, opportunity, the chance to become better than who you were the day before. My people have a mindset, the grind, to hustle, to be better than anything, and if we're doing this based along gender or, you know, race, well, clearly that tells me that you as a white liberal have not been outside the U.S., because you would know that there's a lot of Spanish countries, a lot of black countries that have different political leanings, left, right, center. We're not all one homogenized group. And it is comical when you hit them with that they don't know what to say.
Yeah, sorry if you heard a giant thunder.
I know, I saw that. It's like you kind of had this, like, if we were in October, it'd be kind of sweet because you had that thunder and it flashed real big. And oh yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. I like that.
I got actual practical effects on my end of the camera.
Clearly, I mean, better than my blue screen over here.
So it's just interesting, dealing with people like that, because through my whole time when I was in high school, and I talked about it pretty openly on the show. I think last year and other years, the amount of hate I got from my fellow classmates, from people that were supposed to be teachers and being, hate to say mentors, but they're supposed to be teaching.
Oh, right.
They're teaching us, basic math, science, history, stuff like that. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was people over time, parents stepping away, not having to want to deal with the education system or whatever, not having as a hands-on approach as many people do now, especially everything going on. But I think we as conservatives and liberals, or anyone that's on the right or left, we've lost that sense of really sitting down and having a conversation, because I think more times than none, we actually do agree on a good chunk of things. It's just how we get there that divides us.
Why do you think we've lost that art of discussion?
I think it's mostly one side they're either afraid to talk about things. Others want to oppress that actual conversation, because there are times where people are trying to have that conversation, and then because I had it at Juneteenth. I was talking with some people, and then a friend of theirs came over. Oh no, don't talk to them, because look at that symbol on the banner. They hate us. We're all the colored folk. That's what they said.
You know what my response to that would have been, right? It would have been like, it's like, I don't hate you guys. Now I do hate. Clearly I do. Like, you said it, so now I'm gonna hate everyone. No, the rest of your crew is fine. I like them. You, on the other hand, you kind of sus. That would have been me.
It was just interesting seeing that too, because and it's more times, even at State Fair, I saw that happen. People, an individual would shut down the conversation, and it could be a great conversation going on, and we may not entirely agree, but at least we're having that conversation. And I think us being present in the community more as Republicans, as our county parties, as a state party, or even the national party, being in the community really allows us to rebuild that bridge and that conversation that needs to, no open minds. Christine, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
There's plenty of people that are like that on both sides.
We're starting to see it a lot more on the right, and I don't want to get you caught up in this because obviously you're the second vice chair for Milwaukee County. So I don't want to get you caught up in that. But yeah, I think we're starting to see a lot more of that on the right too, where it's like you don't back their candidate. Oh, there's something wrong with you. You're a rhino. You're this. You're a rhino, or you're a rhino with an H. We're not sure which one it is.
The boy who
you
calls
can define
rhino.
what that is.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, am I hunting? We hunting big game on the Serengeti. What are we doing here?
Teddy Roosevelt over here.
Teddy Roosevelt style.
It's a shame that people on our side jump to those conclusions, or and it's not just like singled here to our state. It's all over the country, and sometimes it's our people here in this state looking at other states like, oh, they should be doing this, they should be doing that, or people here in the county should be like, oh, this needs to happen, they need to do this, they need to do that, they all need to be fired, blah 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 blah. But they're not there to have the conversation. They're not there to put an effort into actually being part of the change that they want to see. And so I really hope, getting back to the summer picnic in general and things that the Republican Party in Milwaukee County or the Republican Party of Wisconsin are doing, I really hope that these things will be a way, an eye-opening experience for people to understand, no, this is how things get done. This is how you make change. This is how you, who knows, maybe run for political office. There are plenty of opportunities for people within the party, within the conservative movement. I mean, look at you with your show. You've had God knows how many well-known Wisconsin candidates and
crazy
that were in office or currently in office on your show. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity, not only for you, but for them, these leaders, people like me and others who are trying to do, big, small, or indifferent, whatever we're trying to do to move Wisconsin, move Milwaukee County, move the United States back on the right track, because a majority of the population agrees that our country is off track by these reckless policies that are continuously pushed by the Democrats. And we can always talk about red meat issues, but there are other issues that the left talks about that we have to have people looking into, organizations working on those topics. It doesn't have to be the exact same way that the Democrats do it, but maybe we too can add to the conversation or provide a different perspective. And so I really hope when people come to the picnic that they'll be able to interact with, may the force be with you as well, really allows them to interact with groups like Pro-Life Wisconsin or Wisconsin Right to Life, other Moms for Liberty, for example. Scarlett Johnson will be coming out with them. So, I mean, there's different avenues for people to be involved in. And I really want people to have those conversations, especially 2 weeks before a primary. What we really need to do is come together, no matter who wins that primary, and beat Tony Evers and beat everyone else that is going along with his terrible, reckless policies. And, if we don't win the governorship, which I don't want to jinx it or anything, but
you can be confident. You cannot be complacent.
Exactly. But maybe we'll pick up a veto-proof majority. Who knows? There's different avenues that we can take as a state and as a party. So that's just my thoughts. I'm sure I can talk about, God knows, many other things.
We do have so much going on right now. When you look at this picture here, you're looking at host here. Obviously, you talked about wanting to unite people in the like. Talk to me about that, because, like I said, there's a lot of people that are very adamant about their candidate. There are a lot of people that are, just it's their way or bust. And my fear is that we're going to have this red wave come across the U.S. and it's going to miss Wisconsin because people are are too stuck on not seeing not only the bigger picture, but to them, they're going to take their toys and go home if they don't get their way.
So that's people have stated that many times around me.
I'm on, I'm doing a podcast right now, right?
You all right, Ed?
Yeah. No, I'm good. It's got something going here real quick, but go on, continue though, please.
Ed's being held hostage.
What's that?
So
Be quick. Tell me.
So as I was saying,
you can still hear me. I thought I muted this thing.
No, I can making me lose my train of thought over here, Chief.
No, dude, my son came over here. He's like, hey, I want to tell you a quick fact. And it's, he comes up with all his useless facts, which is really cool. And it's like, all right, dude, be quick. Be quick. Come on. I mean, what part of quick don't you understand? Come on, homie. So yeah, so much for that mute button over here. Wait, I just muted that and it worked. Okay, I ain't even trying to mess with this. This dude's a trip. This dude's 10-year-olds, I tell you. But go on, I'm sorry. See, we got all the errors and everything when we record. We don't even play. That's why I tell people we don't edit. It's raw, fresh, and organic. That's how we get down.
Some people's children, I tell you.
Oh, I know.
So as I was saying, the importance, I think you mentioned, the question was the importance of Unite for November or whatever.
Yeah.
And so in my time, when this governor or when the midterms started, especially here in Wisconsin, we had candidates announcing stuff. Many times I came across people, and I try to stay as neutral as possible with my position. And there's plenty of people that said that if my candidate doesn't win, they're not going to support whoever the nominee is. And at that point, you might as well just be checking the box for Tony Evers and other Democrats. Because if your candidate can't win, it's not that it's probably because they're still learning the process, or maybe they're a first-time candidate. And this goes for all races. I'm not just talking about one race. I could be talking about an assembly race or a county supervisor race, et cetera.
Any race for that matter.
Any race for that matter. It's either because your candidate was very new and they didn't know what to do when it really came to outreaching to voters. The other thing is maybe there was just another candidate with more experience or who has held that position for a while, or they're an incumbent, so they know that district very well, and they're able to hold on to it better because they have a better relationship with voters. It's not that people are out to get your candidate unless they're really going crazy and they.
Well, we got some of that this cycle too, depending on what district you're looking at, but let's not bring that up.
So, I mean, a lot of people, I think those people that talk about this, they jump to those conclusions and they don't see the bigger picture. And, just because the candidate loses doesn't mean that it's totally endgame for them or that they're never going to run again. Maybe they'll run for a different position, or maybe they'll try again and they'll actually win that seat. Yeah. So I think it's important, especially this year, with everything going on in this country, from inflation to gas prices to just rising crime. Crime itself is out of control. Milwaukee is still leading the nation. I remember when I was campaigning with Bob Donovan in Milwaukee for the mayor's race. I was his right-hand guy. Now, I wasn't the campaign manager, but I was right there whenever Bob needed something, or we were going to events and meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And crime was a big issue for everyone. The city is just so used to voting Democrat for years, so it didn't want to vote for a conservative. Right. And it's absolutely ridiculous that we're still talking about Milwaukee leading the nation ahead of Chicago and New York, or even LA.
Always in the wrong ways, which is, just sad and pathetic.
So, I mean, people have to talk to one another. They have to go and talk to their neighbors. Even if they're Democrats, you have to break through them and say, look, we don't care what your thoughts are on the individual candidates, or just not the individual candidates, the Republican Party as a whole, look at the individual and the issues that they're running on. Because Donovan, when he was running, always talked about crime and trying to help bring economic prosperity as an example to curb the crime that continue, the revolving door crime wave that we have exploding within our area. So I really think people need to throw that it's my way or the highway mentality to the side and get behind whoever wins. Because if we don't, and we don't unite together, I guarantee there's probably more of us than there are of them, especially with everything going on. We can beat these people, and we can ensure that their policies do not hurt our state any longer.
Well, and here's the crazy part, because when you think about everything that's happened, this is something that's happened over a couple generations, potentially more, but it's certainly accelerated more so in the last 10 to 20 years, easily. And we need to look at this through the lens of, if we want to see Wisconsin get better, we have to start now. And we can't do this by having a circular firing squad. We can't do this by tearing each other down. And, and I'm going to pick on the Rantham supporters in particular. I'm not picking on Tim Rantham. I'm picking on a lot of his supporters, because a lot of these cats are trying to go for the jugular. But I guarantee you, they won't be going after Democrats like that, which makes them very suspect to me. Because a lot of these cats, like I said, if you go after Democrats the way that you're going after other Republicans, other conservatives, Tony Evers wouldn't be in office right now. And I think by having this circular firing squad, this runs the high risk of not only, I think, missing out on this potential for a red wave, but it also screws up any potential for future dialogue to try to repair the Republican Party, to try to grow the Republican Party, to try to strengthen the Republican Party. That's why I made that commitment several months back. I got some problems with RPW, but you know what? My problems are on hold until after this election. And I know it's funny because I can see some people right now. Rhino, shut up.
Establishment.
Oh, yeah. Establishment. Yeah, because you talked to so-and-so. Yes, and I talked to you too. Your point?
So,
heaven forbid, by the way, heaven forbid you have a decent civil conversation with another human being, and it's not the person you like. And it's like, well, guess what? If you want to have a podcast, you can invite anyone you want on your podcast. Until then, shut up and keep watching. That's all I got.
Another thing I notice from people, whether I'm at the office or out campaigning with people, or just going to events, or even social media. I think especially on social media, I don't really post too much. I think I've gotten out of the habit of just, social media.
You're better for it. I'll tell you that much. You are better for it.
Yeah, I don't have to post 24/7 everything that's going on in my life, or looking and seeing what everyone else is doing all the time. But, I do notice that, sure, candidates throw mud at one another from time to time, but
sure,
it's more vicious, and the anger and hate and stuff is coming from the supporters.
Yeah, that's
exactly
I think what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I'm really seeing it more this year than I have before. I'm sure I could be wrong. I wasn't involved in politics years ago. I was still in school and had other things to focus on trying to graduate. But
Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. I totally understand.
God, don't even get started on that. Don't even get me started. But that's where the hate seems to be coming from. And it of course, gets picked up by the media and other things, and blasted out to the world. And I think because of 2016, and you brought this up earlier, there's a lot of people who, let's say, for example, the debates. would they be watching the debates if they weren't, entertained by the 2016 Republican
Oh,
presidential?
politics is pop culture like a champ right now. People watch politics right now the way nerds watch anime. And it's funny because if you were to take a debate and pick your favorite politician right now, it would probably get better ratings than, say, WWE, some sports events, definitely more than Major League Baseball. I mean, it's kind of scary.
It's a good, and I don't want to say bad thing.
It's a mixed bag, no doubt.
It's a mixed bag. I think it's more of a good thing than it is bad. And my point is, I think because of that, because of 2016 and everything, and President Trump, when he was then candidate Trump, what he really did, he revolutionized, whether people agree or disagree or not. He revolutionized the way politics is looked at. He brought politics back into the actual household because many people, they didn't talk politics. They kept it very quiet. You ask a teacher, "Oh, who are you voting for?" They kept that very quiet, and they didn't say that to their students. Now that you got teachers just writing it on the walls, putting flags on
Antifa flags,
flags, etc., and teachers coming out saying that they're transgender or something to like 6-year-olds.
Right.
I don't know if it happened. It's just an example, people. And so it revolutionized politics. And a lot of people who weren't involved in politics years ago are now involved. And so we have, let's say at state convention, we had a lot of new people there. I mean, it was only my second state convention, but I at least understood how the process went and didn't go crazy. And
I had somebody come up to me and they're like, "Man, I'm sorry, man. I've never seen a convention like this. Never." And I'm like, no, it can only go up from here. We hope. We hope.
So that's what I think where all that viciousness is coming from, where all that division is coming from. And I think there are people that truly want to divide the party because let's say they felt like they got screwed over years ago, or
agitators.
They're agitators. They just have nothing better to do. They just want to shake things up and be.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try to be the next Donald Trump, which there can never be another Donald Trump.
There are a lot of people that have invoked Trump, and I find that kind of interesting because I've heard several people, not just here in Wisconsin, but also nationally, where they talk about how, I'm just like Trump. And it's like, dude, stop. Like, cut the BS. There's only one Trump, and you're not it. You take a look at Ron DeSantis down in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trump was Trump. And I equate it like this. Trump was the prototype. Trump was the bull in the china shop that we needed in 2016 to just shake it up. And I'm never a fan of this next in line stuff. You have to work your way in. You have to earn your seat at the top of the ticket. So when he was going after, low energy Jeb and everything else, it's like, damn, look at him. You're kind of being a dick there, but you're not wrong.
You had low energy Jeb, Lion Ted. You had
he had all the nicknames, and it was funny because what he did is he took everything Obama did in 2008, 2012, because Obama was really the one who revolutionized politics and social media. And then he took that formula that Obama had and he put that thing on steroids and maximized Twitter, did all that other stuff. But you look at what Ron DeSantis is doing. Ron DeSantis isn't the prototype. Ron DeSantis is the upgrade. And it's not a hit on Trump. Trump can't be anything but Trump. He's going to pick a fight with everybody. You swing at him, he's going to want to swing hard. That's just the way it is. And I think that's where we're starting to see too, looking forward into the Magic 8 Ball. There we go. Looking into the Magic 8 Ball here. Do we have Trump 2024? Do we have DeSantis 2024? Do we have a Trump DeSantis ticket? How do they balance each other out? Is there balance? I don't know.
Isn't there something in the Constitution stating that they can't have two people from the same state running on the ticket of the presidency?
I believe that to be correct.
I think it's in Article 2. I gotta reread it, but let's see.
I'm old. I forget things. What's from Magic 8 Ball State?
Outlook good on mine.
Well, we asked a lot of questions, so that could be a bunch of different things there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who's going to take their ball and go home. Who's going to be here for the long haul, and who is really about the conservative movement and is not grifting for themselves.
That's a very important thing. There's a lot of people out. I feel they see politics as a. Sorry, I keep getting notifications from people.
You're popular.
It's one way to look at it.
It's all like hate mail and everything. I get you. I get a lot of that too.
I think there's a lot of people that I don't know why. Maybe it's just something going on in their life. I think they want to use politics as a way to get their, to be get famous quick.
Raise the profile, right?
Raise the profile, don't really do anything, and then just kind of disappear. It's not just here in Wisconsin, it's all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's many different people that are like that. They don't put in their time to volunteer. They don't put in their time to work on campaigns, go door knocking, walk in a parade or anything. They just want to be there, complain, or preach to the crowd. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. And I hope I don't get in trouble for that, saying that. But whenever I'm at events and it's question and answer session, and people take 5 minutes to monologue or preach on what we need to do, this and that, and everything going on before asking their question. Hell, there's times where they don't even ask a question. They just preach.
It's a statement. Yeah.
It's a statement. They make a statement and then they stop. And I've been noticing it more and more and more at all these events I keep going to or just watch. Hell, I'm one of those people that like to watch debates from other states. I watched both the Pennsylvania Senate debate, and
you're more of a nerd than I am, man. What's going on with that?
The New York governor's debate. Hell, I watched the New York mayor's debate.
It's the real hardcore political for you right here, guys.
I just like watching two people argue about things. Maybe that's just I get a kick out of it. But it's just interesting. Hell, there's even a time I'm actually, and this is a little off topic. I'm sorry, folks.
That's all right.
All over the place now.
Well, it's the standard Tuesday night show. We're just doing it on the video platform. And yes, we're going to go in 700 different tangents. Follow along if you can. But, it's free flow, it's stream of thought. And it's funny because I heard somebody talk about another person's podcast one time about it's a young lady. It's just a stream of thought. It's just garbage. And it's like, well, why are you listening? Don't listen.
She said that about your show?
No. It was another young lady who had a podcast. And for her, it was a bit therapeutic where she just talked things through and whatever came to her mind. Guest called in and it was entertaining. No, not necessarily my cup of tea, but some other people were like breaking it down because you know how it is on social media.
Are you talking about The View?
Not talking about The View, but you know how it is on social media. You step on somebody's toes, you get into an online pissing contest, and next thing you know, life is coming to an end. God, I wish people would stop that, but that's a whole nother topic.
Ed, it's been the end of the world for 5 years right now.
It really has been, hasn't it?
This is the longest end of the world I never thought I'd live through.
I've told people, by the way, that I've actually survived 3 different apocalypses. And So the first one was a super hurricane. I don't even what they call it anymore. So I was lived down in Puerto Rico down in 1990, I think it was 89, 90. Second one was this super typhoon that hit us when I lived out in Guam. Totally rocked us. No power for like 3 months. It's pretty good apocalypse right there. Then of course we have our current day one. Best one, longest one. Wow.
We're
The other
sending.
two just I was saying the other two prime me for this one. I mean, that's really all what it breaks down to.
Man, them Aztecs were dyslexic.
Oh yeah. 2012? What? Huh? No.
2021. So I was gonna say this. I don't know. I think his name is Peter, but I forgot how to say his last name. But he was one of the professors out in California who lost his job, and I can't remember why he lost his job. But I came across this probably a few weeks ago, and what he's doing is these thought exercises where he stands outside on a campus or whatever, and he has about 5 or 6 long lines of tapes, and it's like agree or strongly agree, slightly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly or slightly strongly disagree. And what he would do is write a question on the whiteboard, and then he would have people stand in the middle, in the neutral spot, and he'd say, "All right, now you have to move to one of these positions. You cannot look at anyone else while doing it because they're all in a row." And he says, 3, 2, 1, go. They move to that position. And I'm telling you, it's for anyone who's really into politics or really likes watching people talk, or really, because what he does is just ask questions. And like, why do you believe that? Can you explain this? Like, he'll even go down and ask them to explain or define a certain word from their meaning. And there's people like, oh, well, if you're using Webster's dictionary and stuff for that word, you don't want to use that because it's part of the
it's imperial.
It's imperial, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But then you have sometimes the actual debate between two different groups of people as to why they believe that. And then it's at that point, that's when he goes and asks them, what will get you to either move to this spot, just one space in either direction? And then it really allows the individual to think. It's like, well, first of all, why am I standing here? And if I were to move, what would cause me? Some of the topics were abortion. The other topic was, should transgenders participate in women's sports? The everyday topics. And it was truly a fascinating conversation. And I think our whole talk tonight, having these conversations, you and me, sitting here talking about different things going on, or from what we see from our two different parts of the state, or what other people are doing, it's important for others to know that you can have that conversation. You can be involved, even just talking to people. You don't have to go out and knock 100,000 doors.
We could do that too. I mean,
you could.
I can think of a few campaigns that would love for you to do that.
But, people are busy with, or they like to say they're busy with their jobs.
Yeah, everybody's busy.
Everybody's busy. We're all going to be very busy soon if things keep going the way that they are.
I'm not kidding. Be foraging for truffles and stuff just to try to eat something. No, and I think that you bring something up really important, and that's why, obviously, this show here, this is the Caramel Conservative. It is on YouTube now. We're doing it like this just to see how it works. But when I've been doing the Wisconsin Conservative conversations, having on all these various guests and everything, I don't agree with all of them. As a matter of fact, I can find a lot of things that I disagree with all of them. But one of the things that I try not to do during those conversational segments it's 1 hour conversations, is not to interject who I'm pulling for, not to say, hey, why don't you believe this? Why didn't you do that? I would much rather ask questions in a civil manner like grown folks do, so that I think it provides value, education. Hopefully it gets people to laugh a little bit, but to give you an actual inside view onto this candidate, what they believe, the human aspect of them. Here, what I mean, like, Kevin Nicholson just dropped out, but I had him on as a guest here last week, and it was a phenomenal conversation because here's the man, he's relaxed, he's comfortable, laughed at a couple of things that we were doing back and forth, some of the situations being what they were, and I think that gives people a different perspective from what they see not only on the campaign trail, but how many people don't have the opportunity to go see, him, Clayfish, Brantham, Michaels, or any other of the other races because they're not involved in party politics that way. And yes, Christine, I did say foraging for truffles. I suppose you can go fishing. I don't know about all that, but
got any good fishing spots there, Ed?
I don't know. I was just kind of making that up as I went along. But, I have this image of like a pet pig just looking for truffles around the forest. It was just the funniest thing.
Right. But, getting back to the whole point.
Well, the conversation, and that's the thing. You want to have that conversation, not so much to come to consensus, but to come to understanding. Because I think if you can get past yourself, your ego. You said it right there. The word of the night, word of the day. I think you need to have a word of the day, Ed, and just throw it in the show at some point. And there you go.
Start doing a contest out of it like Mark Belling or others do on their shows.
I probably should do that. But I'm like too broke to be having like contests where I'm giving stuff away. It's a recession out here. That's all we know. Thank you, Biden.
You could have it where like they have to all like type it like when they're like, oh, he said the word or whatever, and whoever's the last one, they got to pay you money.
Oh, that's awesome. But go on.
You said the key word of the night. Pay attention, kids. And that's understand.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding, you don't have to agree, but at least you can understand where someone's coming from.
Yeah.
I think if a lot of people now in this election process, whether it's our members or the Democrat members or just, Republicans or conservatives, libertarians, independents, the people that are involved in the Republican Party as a whole, because it is the party of the big tent, if we have a better understanding where each of us comes from, I think it would bring a lot more mutual respect towards one another, and we won't have all that hateful fighting back and forth, bickering, calling people out, calling people names, labeling people rhinos or
giraffes or lions,
giraffes,
honey badgers,
and bears. Oh my!
This is the honey badger. Oh, goodness. That's a good video, by the way. Before your time, Hilario. Well before your time.
Most definitely. I may be an old soul, but I don't know everything.
And we'll teach you. We'll teach you along the way. Trust me on that.
So I think that's what we need to do better as shit. Oh, I was going to say I took over the show for a second.
You know what happens? Someone, my long lost son is just taking over my spot. Ain't that something?
It was always meant to be. Yeah. You did say it was in the will.
Well, yeah, I did keep you around for that. So yeah, for sure. But go on. You were talking about just having the ability to understand. Get that understanding amongst people, to get to understand where people are coming from more so than necessarily building consensus.
And I'm going to tie this back into the actual Republican Party when it comes to county leaderships from across the state, and even staffers that work for the state party. I think we have to do a better job at actually talk about what the real role of the Republican Party is
Oh yeah.
and how it truly functions from both the county system and how it interacts and correlates with the state party system. Because that's another thing. I got a call one day at the office. It's like, why isn't the Republican Party doing this? They need to be voting on that. They're just yelling at me on the phone. And I'm just like, that's not what the Republican Party does. What we do is we help elect conservatives or Republicans that will vote on those issues. Now, we can't always control everyone that gets into office. I know out in Wyoming, they're having their big issue with Liz Cheney. Now, what did they do? They censured her, or whatever they did. And now they're running a primary against her.
I hear she's something like 30 points down.
Yeah, that's bad.
An incumbent and a legacy candidate.
Yep.
Wow.
30 points.
Those two things are like usually insurmountable. Like you should not be able to defeat somebody with those two bullet points on their resume.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, here we are.
Here we are. Times are very different. And, that's what happens when you continuously side with another group of people that call us flyover states. They hate us. They think that we're Hitler's minions and stuff. These people are just off the walls with a lot of their policies, and the average person is just tired of it. And so like I said, we need to do a better job at explaining the actual role of the party and how it works and how conservatives and other groups and organizations can work with us to get our ultimate goal, which is to elect Republicans and conservatives who will help facilitate or push or pass legislation that support the policies we believe in as conservatives.
Well, I'm going to throw this at you here, and maybe you don't have an answer for this, or maybe it's above your pay grade, which totally fine. Because I'd love to ask Paul Farrow this here, the chair of the Republican Party. Great guy. I've met him a few times. But one of the things that I've noticed, in particular when it comes to, I'm not even going to worry about the national level. I'm going to focus more here on the state of Wisconsin with the Republican Party of Wisconsin, RPW. And I do have to wonder about the branding, the messaging, getting that out to the average person. And I understand, you break it down by county, so hopefully the counties can do that. But as much of a fan as I am of decentralization, there is something to be said about having a bit of command and control from the top and kind of farming things out that way. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely think it's a branding and a marketing issue that RPW has struggled with, and I think they have struggled with that for years. And I don't know what the correct answer is for them to kind of pull out of that.
Is it a branding issue, or are you asking if it's I'm not going to say leadership issue, but I think it gets like a sort of lost in the chain of command throughout a state.
I think branding and marketing, getting the information out to people beyond just the county people. This is where I think certain counties and stuff can do things other than say get out the vote and everything, which is important. Door knocking is important, but interacting with your community, volunteering at food pantries, doing other things like that. Work in tandem with Toys for Tots, you name it. Any little thing you can do to kind of put yourself out into the public, I think is a very positive way to establish a brand that says, hey, we're not what you think we are. Not that I feel like we have to prove it, but let's be real. 2022 America, you got to prove everything.
I think I touched on that earlier as to what we were currently doing out here on our own as Milwaukee County. And yes, we have some outreach directors out here working on stuff. I mean, you have me, Kenzer Senate, and I'm sure we do have others that come on out whenever there's events and try to work with us. We try to
give a quick shout out too. Leslie Hubert, she's the grassroots director for RPW. Huge shout out to her. I've had a chance to talk to her several times. Phenomenal human being. I just love that she's very open, taking suggestions, and just kind of getting a feel for things. Everywhere I've gone, I see her out and about, putting in work, and I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have some really good working people that are trying to tackle a lot of things. You know, people look at the state party. There's not that many people working. I mean,
There
yeah,
really isn't.
I don't know how many actual staffers that are like the main team for RPW, but I mean, Wisconsin is. I mean, it's not a huge state, but it's not a small state either. So there's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of different counties. We have 72 counties, and not all the counties are as active as others. I think one of the things that we can do better through RPW, and I think it's getting there because the county parties are volunteer organizations.
That
They
is
are
true.
a volunteer army. I keep telling people, we are like George Washington and his Continental Army, or the militia that enlisted to fight during the Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many of us, but they're volunteering their time.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are times where we struggle. Now, are we fighting a revolution? No. But are we fighting a cultural civil war without killing each other?
Unquestionably.
Most definitely. And thank God we're not out here, you know, in a actual civil war. That, I mean, we don't want that. I mean, you can't really see it behind me, but I mean,
yeah.
Do we really want that to happen? No, we don't. We don't ever want that. We already had that, and we won, and we stayed united as a country. So I think what I hope to see is that we, RPW, continues to get out there and actually work with people in their local counties, especially if they're not active counties,
right,
to get key people to build active county parties. And this isn't going to happen in a matter of days. This is going to take a few years. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will be these active county parties. And sometimes it just depends on the region and how many people. I mean, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of things. You went to many different other counties to do stuff before you got involved with your county.
Yeah.
And I know you struggle with your own county, like others. It's just that's what happens when we're working with volunteers. Everyone wants to do it their way, or not everyone's a team player. There's a lot of us who are team players that want to work together and get stuff done. Whether it's our individual county or with the surrounding counties working together. So I think they're working on that. I don't have all the answers, and I can definitely say that's most definitely above my pay. But I can say from what I'm doing on my own part with other people within the county, we are, and I told this.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, please finish up.
I was really close to our former first vice chair the last few months before he passed.
Sir.
And what Rick Boss always wanted to facilitate or bring forth, I should say, that's the proper way to say it. He wanted to make Milwaukee County a more productive political organization. Not just a club, not just something to say, oh, I'm part of the Republican Party and that's it, but actually be present in the community, be out there working on projects, opposition research, doing parades, getting people to go door to door and help candidates and recruit candidates. I remember when he said that, and I remember when I was with him in the hospital before he passed away. I mean, I said, I will do what I can with anyone that wants to help me get this county to be a more productive political organization. And we have done that. We are the largest Republican membership out of all the county parties. I think we have finally surpassed Waukesha, and we are continuously growing every day. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head because I'm not a math person. I don't care numbers. I can remember dates during the Civil War, but you ask me what's a certain number plus another number, it's going to take me a few minutes to
Public school. I totally understand that. Totally understand that.
MPS education right there.
That'll happen, brother. Trust me, I know that one all too well.
So it just, I mean, it depends on the individual and how active and how much time they actually want to give in to, as many people like to say, saving our country.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope to continue to see that down the road for the state. I think it's happening. I think it will continue to happen. And as long as people like you and me and others are there at the helm or ready to be on deck to help with anything,
right,
we will get there. It will just take time.
Oh, it's going to be a hard road. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, sir. I'm going to cut you loose here because I got one more thing I want to go over here. And, of course, I don't want to get you in trouble.
You see, we're at a 2-hour show. I'm getting my fill into.
Well, I'm not going to do a 3. I'm not going to do a 3.
You know, I could be watching TV right now, people, but I care about this. I like to see things get done. I like to have these conversations. Plus, it's the only time I ever get to hang out with my long lost dad, Ed.
This is facts. He could be sitting there watching old episodes of Cartoon Network, Powerpuff Girls. I get it, Mojo Jojo,
or some Hogan's Heroes.
Wow, you really do kick it old school. Wow.
Yeah, actually, I was watching X-Files, so before this show. I know.
Old school. Man. All right, man. Well, listen. Shout out one more time here. We got that Republican Party of Milwaukee County picnic. Give us the details.
So we will be having our summer picnic July 23rd from 11 to 2. I'll say that again, from 11 to 2, July 23rd at the Tri-County Baptist Church in Franklin. We had it there last year. We're doing it again this year. We have all the candidates coming out from across the state, and we are going to allow other groups to table, and we really hope everyone can make it from the surrounding areas. It's going to be a great event. Again, Tri-County Baptist Church in Franklin. You can go onto our website, mkegop.com, to actually find the flyer. You can find me on Facebook, or I'm sure Ed will share it out as well. I got to update that flyer. People are dropping like flies, it seems, like from the dropping out of races.
Well, it is what it is. And, I think, when it comes to Kevin Nicholson's announcement today, I think he made the best decision that he made for himself, his family, his campaign. And, I want to make sure to commend him for his work, both on the trail. And, it's funny because I met him for the first time. We were in, where were we? New London, I believe it was. And I met him for the first time in October. And he didn't know me from Adam. And he found out that I was in the Marine Corps. And we were talking for like a good 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes easily. And to me, it was kind of a big deal because it's like, bro, I know I do a podcast and everything, but you don't owe me nothing. You don't owe me time. You don't owe me, but yeah, he made time. And I will always be thankful for that. Every time I've seen him, he's made time. But, same token, so is Tim Rantham, so is Rebecca Clayfish, so is Adam Fisher. And I've gotten the opportunity to meet all these folks. But Kevin Nicholson, obviously dropping out of the race, I think he brought a lot to the table. And, his work with No Better Friend and everything was a huge advocacy organization that was, clicking off on all cylinders for a few years, the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward. And, I truly believe that he does have the best interests of the people of Wisconsin at heart. So I would, look forward to seeing what he's got, and that's really at the end of the day. We're now down to 4.
All I can say is I wish everyone the best of luck.
May the odds ever be in your favor.
And There we go. That I got.
By the way, Christine said bring a chair.
Yeah, definitely. People, I think we'll have enough chairs for people, but yeah, definitely. If you want to feel comfortable. You don't want to just sit on a metal chair or anything that the church has.
She said something about a beanbag earlier, so there is that.
Beanbag. Whoa! What are we passing something around?
It's all about comfort. That's all we're saying.
All about comfort. Okay. But yes, if you want, feel free to bring a chair. It'll definitely feel probably more like an actual picnic and being at a county fair or something, or like going to watch the fireworks. We won't have fireworks, not that I know of.
I said not that I know of.
Well, you never know. You got people running around 4th of July parades and stuff getting canceled, fireworks getting canceled. So if they want to come shoot them at the church, I don't care. Just don't shoot them at me.
Let's avoid anything ridiculous with fireworks for sure. But that being said, I think this is going to be a really great event. I plan on being on down there. So if you're in the Milwaukee area, by all means, stop on by because what's the turnout? We want to try to get at least 200, 300 people up in here.
I am aiming for 300 people. I will be happy with 200 people.
There you go.
But it will definitely be bigger than last year, and you won't want to miss it. Because, this might be the only time that we're doing it like this, and maybe we'll switch it up next year. We shall see. But, what better way to meet all the candidates if you're either a supporter or you're still on the fence as to who you're supporting. And, I got to keep adding this. Anytime that I come on the show, I got to add this in to people. And this is a rally cry for everyone to get involved. Those who sit on the fence post get impaled by it. So don't sit on the fence post. Get involved in any way you can with your local county party and the state party or a campaign or candidate, and do your part to help win in November.
Dude's talking about sitting on a fence post, man. That just sounds mighty uncomfortable. The analogy just really put an image in my head I did not want. Thank you very much.
It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable because it's going to make you to want to get involved.
Either that or going out like one of Vlad the Impaler's victims, but that's a story for another day. Hilario De Leon, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you being on here.
Thank you very much, Ed, and you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk to you. All right,
you do the same, brother. Take care. All right, guys, that was Hilario De Leon. Always love having him on here. So obviously we have had Hilario. We had Paul Burning on here tonight. I'm going to be closing out the show here right now. It's just simply for the fact that, well, like I said, we started the show late because of a little flooding issue. We got that under control, but goodness knows I got a lot of work ahead of me tomorrow. So we'll be taking care of all that goodness. But yeah, coming up here, Wisconsin Conservative Conversations. We'll be having more guests coming on this week here. I'm going to have to tweak that schedule a little bit just because of the flood issue I've dealt with. But yeah, we'll be definitely doing more of that. Let me know what you guys think here about having the Caramel Conservative Podcast here on this platform. I know it's a little different. It's something that I wanted to try out, see what you guys think. And yeah, give me your guys' feedback. And as always, make sure you hit up the website, thecaramelconservative.com. Make sure you check that out. And as always, as you're watching this here on YouTube, make sure you do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, hook a brother up. I'm trying to get to that magic number of 100 subscribers so I can get that customized URL. So until next week, guys, no crazy intro music, outro, nothing like that. I will see you guys next week. Good night. God bless you. God bless the USA. God bless Wisconsin. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm out.